Hey everybody, it's Mr. Bierbauer again with another art lesson for this week. This week we're going to be learning about the principles of design. We're going to be learning about the very first one, which is patterns. Your materials for today will just be paper, pencil, crayons, markers, colored pencils, whatever coloring materials you have. All right, remember we're going to start every class with our artist promise, which is just us promising how we're going to treat each other and work together during art class. So as artists, we will always try our best, respect ourselves, our friends, and our artwork, take responsibility, imagine new things, support each other, and take time to clean up. Today our I can statement is I can use patterns to create a landscape drawing. And here are two examples that I did. The first one was with crayons, the second one was with colored pencils. So first of all, I said we're studying the principles of design, and we haven't talked about those yet. So basically, the principles of design are how an artist uses the elements of art in their artwork. So we've talked about, in elements of art, we've talked about shapes, colors, lines, and textures. And so we're going to be thinking about how we can choose to use those and combine them and work with them in our artwork. So today, the principle of design we're going to study is going to be pattern. So what is a pattern? Think about that and think about what are some examples of patterns. So a pattern, really simple definition, is just something that repeats at least twice. If it just repeats once and stops, it's not necessarily a pattern, but if it repeats twice or more, it's a pattern. So if you look at all of these pictures here, like these stars, you can see they are all repeated over and over, so they're a pattern. You can see the spiral here, the curve is repeating over and over and over as it goes out, so that's a pattern, and all of these down here are also patterns. So one time we learn a lot about patterns are when we are talking about math. So in math, a pattern is like a repeating shape, number, or even an action. So whenever you skip count, like if you're counting by tens, that's a pattern. Plus 10, plus 10, plus 10, that's a pattern. The other one might be with objects. So if you have like shapes, like a circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle, that's a pattern. If it's just two shapes like that, that's an AB pattern. Now if we're looking down here, circle, triangle, square, really, we would need one more set of those to make sure it was a pattern, but that's an ABC pattern. Here are some examples of how patterns in art look. And in art, it's just a repeating shape, a line, or a color. So you can see all these zigzags together make a pattern, and then the colors really finish that pattern. So it goes white, pink, tiny orange, purple, green, white, pink, tiny orange, purple, green, and keeps going. Then all of these, you can see each one repeats more than 2 times. The only one that might not quite be a pattern are these spots over here. Here are some examples of patterns in famous artwork. The first one is actually 3 different paintings, but they're all called Pumpkin, and they're by Yayoi Kusama. And you can see she used a lot of patterns of tiny, tiny circles repeated over and over and over. And then in the outside, they're almost like triangles, but they're kind of squished, so they're sort of organic triangles repeated over and over and over. And both of those are awesome patterns. And then this one over here is really funny to me. It's Cow Wallpaper by Andy Warhol, and that's him standing right there. So you can see how big this is. He actually covered the entire wall with this pattern of repeated cows. You may have also seen another of his famous artworks, which is the Campbell soup cans, repeated over and over and over and painted in different ways. So here is a quick demonstration on how we're going to do our pattern landscapes. You can either follow along with me, work while I'm working, or you can watch first and then draw yours afterwards. Remember, paper, pencils, and drawing materials are all you're going to need, and you can grab those now before you press play. All right, everybody. So for today, for our pattern landscapes. We'll just need some paper, something to draw with, and then something to color with. I would recommend probably either colored pencils or markers because they're going to be easier to keep sharp. I did my first one with crayons and it was hard to do some of those small details. I'm going to be drawing with a marker just so you can see it better, but remember you guys can draw with your pencil, and then if you want to go back over it later with a marker, you can. So we're going to start with just a house, and that'll just be a big square or rectangle to start with. And do another smaller rectangle for a door. I'm going to do a triangle for the roof. And this will just be a very basic house because we're going to focus on the patterns today. I'll give it a little chimney as well. And then some windows. And I'm going to do my windows so it looks like there are open shutters. So I'm going to make my squares a little bit smaller than I normally would. So this will be one window. And then I'm going to add just a little rectangle on that side. And I don't have room for another window, but you can definitely put a second one on as well. Doorknob, etc. Gonna go in and draw a line across for the grass. I'll put maybe a big tree over here. So I'm gonna kind of start like I was gonna draw a rectangle. And then at the top, I'm gonna just go out just a little bit and make one branch. And then I'm gonna go up like this for my other branch. And then I'm gonna use a nice big organic fluffy shape for the leaves, just like we talked about last week. Organic shapes are ones that we do not learn about in math class, but we do see in nature. So there's one tree, maybe a smaller tree over here. We don't wanna make anything too super small because we do wanna have room to put patterns inside them. So we'll do maybe 3 little branches here. And then again, our organic bushy cloudy shape. And it's okay if it runs off the side of the paper a little. We could put a sun. Nice big circle for a sun. That'll give us some space to add a pattern in there. And then I'm gonna just do one of these flat bottom clouds like I showed us last week too. And it's gonna be kind of simple because we want, again, big shapes to fill up. And then maybe a big flower over here. In my first one, I did the flowers kind of small and it was hard to fit all the patterns that I wanted to inside them. So here's one. Make it kind of a wide stem, a big leaf, big leaf. And yours don't have to be that big, but make sure you leave some room inside. I'm gonna do like a tulip on this side. Because again, you can see I was trying to do my patterns in the leaves here, and you just can't see them at all. So there's our basic house picture. And remember, yours don't have to look like mine exactly. They can definitely be different because we're all different artists with different styles. And I'm gonna just pick a couple textures that I'm gonna use in multiple places throughout my whole picture. So maybe on the house, maybe I'll just do some big squares. And an easy way to do that would be go ahead and do lines all the way across, kind of like I showed us with our castle the other day. Lines all the way across to split it into big areas like this first. And then vertical lines to split it into big squares. And then since we want to make sure it's a pattern, we're going to plan out which ones we want to color. So I'm going to do just an A-B pattern, so just with 2 colors.
maybe like this nice light blue and this green here. Yeah, those will look great together. And you can either switch colors as you go, making sure you're remembering to fill in the right ones. Or if it's easier, you can do all of one color and just make sure you're skipping those spaces. And then go back in with your other color and fill it up. So there's one example. I'll get back to that one in a minute. I'm going to show you guys a couple other ones, and then I'm just going to switch over to the speedy camera. Let's see, maybe for the trees, and remember, we're going to use the same multiple places. So maybe we'll do the tops of the trees and the grass, and maybe even the leaves. I'll just do some nice, easy stripes for a pattern. So just a big fat stripes going across. And if you're using your colored pencils or your crayons, or well, even your markers, you may notice sometimes that your colors will blend a little bit as you fill in the other areas in between. And that's pretty cool. So there's that. And then let's see, I want a nice different color. So I'm gonna use just this yellow because that'll be nice and bright. So far we have two patterns on here. We have a square pattern, which I'm still working on, and we have this line pattern. I'm gonna go ahead and figure out just a couple more, and then we will, like I said, speed up and see what we got. So maybe up and down for the trunk. What would be good colors to go together? Let's see, we've got a violet and a blue. Those will be nice together. So I'm just gonna do sort of wavy lines going down for them. And this one I'm gonna use white in my pattern as well. So I'm gonna leave some area where you can see white in between too. So filling in all my blues. And sometimes you have to go back in and add little spots like this where that blue would continue. And then I'll do this violet. And then I'll leave that white. And it's kind of cool because this is sort of making a neat texture, almost like you could feel this tree trunk. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3. What else might be nice? We could do... You could do a shape repeated, like a little, like hearts or circles or spirals. I'm gonna actually do maybe some spirals on my roof with like a nice bright red. So spiral, spiral, spiral. You can see some of mine are a little bit messy, but we still got the effect of the pattern there. And then since we want to make sure we're going to repeat this, I'll go ahead and put it at least 1 or 2 other places just so you can see that. All right, we'll do that for now. And also remember, like I said, we don't have to fill in every single spot with a pattern. So in some areas, like if we wanted just to do just the leaves, a nice green, we could. Because sometimes it's hard to fill in the smaller areas. So I'll do just like that for this one. But maybe I'll put my spiral pattern on the petals of the tulip. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Speedy Cam for the rest of this drawing. So here is my finished drawing. You can see that I continued those patterns that we were already using throughout, and then I definitely added a couple more, like the zigzags up there in the sun, and put them on the petals down here. Just remember, when you do yours, I want you to make sure you draw a nice basic landscape. So it could just be your house and some things in the background. You could have trees or bushes, hills, clouds, or the sun. And then you are just going to fill it with different patterns. Try to pick probably 4 or 5 patterns, and then you can recycle them through your whole picture, just like I did. So here's the one that I finished just now with colored pencil as one example. And then over here is the one I did with crayons. You can see I used some of the same patterns between them, and I definitely picked some new choices for other ones. I really just can't wait to see what you come up with. Have a great time drawing.
All right, so we're back. Let's review those steps. First thing you're going to do is you're going to begin your house and your background using those basic shapes. So use your big rectangles, triangles, all your geometric shapes. You're going to have some organic shapes in there too, like the clouds and the bushes, and the trees. And then you're going to add some details to your picture. I just added a couple flowers here. And then after that, just work on filling in those spaces with patterns and colors. Try to pick at least 4 or 5 patterns to repeat throughout your whole picture. And make sure there's something in every area. Some areas you can choose just to use color, but try to use patterns in most of them, especially if they're nice big areas. Number 4, show off your work at home. Submit it on Canvas. When you're on Canvas, take a look back, see if there's anything else you're missing, because we're getting really close to the end of the semester. You have until January 4th to turn in any work for art. This is the 9th week, so there's going to be about 10 weeks of artwork for me. So that means 10 assignments. Make sure you get them all in so I can give you a great grade. All right, thanks y'all, and have an awesome week.